Here we are in Dublin with Mark Shirley. He's going to share his experience with us of what happened in Ireland, what kind of problems you had, because we have the same problems. You faced them about 10 years ago. How to promote airtightness in general in Ireland. How was the concept and what's happening today?
So if we go back to the middle 2000s, there was a construction boom in Ireland and we were building a lot of houses. And what started to happen was individuals, typically people who wanted to build their own one-off house, in conjunction with their architect, started to develop an interest in airtightness and making sure the building was built correctly and they had a controlled movement of air in their house. So they became aware of various concepts, including the passive house concept in terms of building the building. So there was an opportunity then to start to do airtightness testing, but it was driven very much, you could say, from the bottom down, from the consumer at that time. And in 2008, for the first time, airtightness testing or air permeability testing came into the Irish building regulations. So at that time, it was mandatory from that point on that a sample number of houses on every building scheme had to be tested.
In 2008?
In 2008. It started in 2008, and then there was a transition period. So really from 2010 on, it kind of really started to happen. The testing level was set at 10 cubic meters per hour, so it was reasonably easy to achieve the test, but our colleagues, our constructor colleagues, the builders, were very, very nervous about someone coming to site and doing testing. So it was very important that when we went to site, and often we would visit the site before we did the test to discuss with them what was going to happen, how we were going to do the test, that we would definitely find leaks and maybe how we would explain to them to seal up the leaks. Once they started to pass the tests and started to gain some confidence, and over the next number of years, what really changed was the knowledge about airtightness, the materials to make building airtightness, and the skill sets. So people did a lot of training as well. This all changed in about a 5-year period, I would say. Then the government changed the building regulations again, and they brought it down to 7. And currently the maximum upper limit is set at 5 cubic meters per hour per meter squared. But what happened in the intervening period was all of the construction colleagues, whether it was the builder himself, the plasterer, maybe the man doing timber work, they all got an interest in airtightness. So every time we went back to test, they wanted to ensure they got a better test result than the last time.
Yes.
So it actually worked almost by itself. There was a pride in their job. We then started to see the introduction of a lot of ventilation systems, which might seem almost strange in a climate like Ireland. That's, it's a relatively cool climate, but people became much more interested in indoor air quality. So to try and get a good balance between controlled air tightness and ventilation systems, the regulations are now set that if you're between 5 and 3, you can still have natural ventilation, and if you go below 3, you must have mechanical ventilation. So we test a lot of houses every year, but now it's moved on even again, because now all commercial buildings, so anything that's non-domestic, whether that's hospitals, data centers, hotels, everything has to be tested. There's a slightly different approach maybe in those scenarios, because when you have systems either where you're trying to control large buildings and you're spending a lot of money putting in ventilation systems, you want to make sure that that air that you're moving around is not just being lost out through the cracks and gaps, particularly if that air is chilled or cooled. Okay, you could take the same scenario then in a hot climate. If you build a building and you're investing in air conditioning systems, you also don't want to make sure that the money that you spent, the energy that you spent money on, just leaks out through the cracks and gaps.
One of the biggest problems that we have in Greece is that people do not realize that airtightness is needed, because they believe that to have an airtight building is for countries up where there are cold climates. What do you think about this?
I can understand why people would have this perception, but when you speak with them and they get a better understanding of what's actually happening, so you have to have healthy air for healthy living. That's a given, yeah.
How do you connect healthy air with airtightness? Because mostly airtightness sounds something bad. It's taking away the air from you. Is it right? It sounds like this.
It can sound like this. So really, we would normally now talk about a controlled movement of air. Okay, so in a house that has natural ventilation, the air pressures outside, the wind outside will change the air coming in through the vents and so on, and that'll happen as long as the design of the vents themselves is adequate for the building. In a house that's more and more airtight, then you really do need a ventilation system. And it's becoming very, very common that there is some kind of assisted ventilation system. Even a house with natural ventilation will typically have an extractor fan in the kitchen and will have them in the bathrooms or toilets. So the concept of mechanical ventilation is not new at all.
Yes.
As the building becomes better built in terms of insulation, better glazing and airtightness, then this is just another system to assist with really fresh air that comes in. If it's going through a mechanical ventilation system, it'll often have filters to clean the air. So the air inside the house is cleaner than the air outside.
Yes.
So if you have anybody who suffers with any kind of respiratory problems from asthma or other issues like that, the air actually in the house can often be much cleaner. You're extracting the air. If there's a recovery system, you can be adding energy to the air that's coming back into the house. So there's potential numbers of ways of doing significant energy savings as well.
So also in a warm climate like Greece, we need airtightness.
Yes, well, if you are spending money to cool air or chill air, and that's just leaking out, it's like throwing euro coins out through the cracks and gaps. It's the same principle. It just in our case it's heat, in your case it's cooler air.
So it's the same amount of energy, but it's different way of energy. It's cooling and heating.
Correct.
So your suggestion to the Greek audience, what would it be?
Try and get a better understanding of the concept of air permeability in buildings, understand the energy savings that it makes. The real positive, the extra positive on top of that is the comfort in the home, that you're maintaining a much more constant level of fresh air that's filtered and that's at a constant temperature.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're more than welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.